Okay, good morning. I'm going to call to order the Monday, June 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners. And it is June, so this year's just flying by. Okay, so our first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance, and then after that, I'm going to ask our sheriff to come forward for invocation. So if everyone please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Psalm 103, verses 17 and 18 say, "But from everlasting to everlasting, the Lord's love is with those who fear him." A more modern interpretation may be interpreted as revering him. His righteousness is with their children's children, with those who keep his covenant and remember to obey his precepts. This is a promise. This is a promise from our Creator that our children and our children's children, in seeking righteousness, will always be cared for. Our prayer today is that as we go about the business of the county, for the people that elected us to these positions, that we keep righteousness our focus, and remember that the guarantee in that is for the future of this county and its children. I would invite you to join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to gather in a public forum and to discuss the business that those who have elected us are impacted by. Pray that you keep our hearts and our minds focused on the righteousness which you ask of us, and that we may always act accordingly. It's in the name of Jesus that I pray. Amen.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate that. Okay, the next order of business is public hearings, and we do have a public hearing today. It's to receive public comment on the Southwestern North Carolina Home Consortium's 2025 Annual Action Plan, and the Southwestern Commission Project Manager of Housing, Lene Schuler, is here this morning, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the partnerships that we have with you. Good morning.
Good morning. So just as a brief overview, the Southwestern NC Home Consortium is comprised of the 7 western counties of North Carolina and the towns within. We were formed in 2020 in order to receive home funds from HUD. These funds are used to provide grants to local governments and developers on a reimbursable basis, with a focus on providing affordable housing and housing assistance to low to moderate income households in the region. Today, this public hearing addresses the 2025 Annual Action Plan, a HUD-required document that ensures alignment of federally funded housing and community development projects with our region's 2021 through 2025 Consolidated Plan. Both the Consolidated Plan and the draft of the Annual Action Plan are available on our website, and the public comment period is open through July 4th, I apologize. For 2025, though, the consortium has been allocated $625,690.80, and we are proposing to support new rental housing construction and tenant-based rental assistance. The rental assistance is proposed to be administered in-house, working with our community partners, while rental housing construction is proposed to be awarded through an application cycle in the spring of 2026 to qualified developers. I do have business cards with me, and my contact information can also be found on the Southwestern Commission's website. And I'd like to thank the board for supporting the consortium and this partnership, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? What kind of Haywood County projects have y'all been involved with?
So thus far, we did assist Waynesville Housing Authority on putting on a new roof that has been completed. And then any of the other awards that we've had, we've looked at working with some housing development through Mountain Projects, as well as some rental assistance that was with Haywood Pathways. Due to capacity issues, some of that has been returned back to us, but we still want to get it implemented out into the community. As well as then we do have disaster relief funds that the board approved for us to use. It was a pot of money that we had that had to be for a specific type of organization. And so when Helene hit, the board did approve that those funds can be now used for disaster relief. And we are looking at doing tenant-based rental assistance in-house with those funds to provide strictly to disaster-affected folks in Haywood County.
Okay, and then how much money have you got for those programs, do you think? Do you have an idea how much money you have for those programs?
For all of those together?
Well,
or?
just like how much did you get for the flood relief and then, yeah?
The disaster funds, what we've currently got is around about 320,000.
Okay.
And that would be strictly just for rental assistance for someone who needed to get into a unit.
But if somebody had a project that they needed help on, what would there be funds for that? Like for infrastructure?
So the infrastructure piece gets a little complicated with these funds. Usually that's going to come from a different source. But our funds can help fill the gaps with some of those projects that are being financed with those other types of funding for infrastructure. We do have some funds that will be still available rolling over. Typically, we do an application cycle, but we do have the ability, if a project comes through that needs assistance that we can help with, to bring that to the board and do that.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate you being available to answer those questions by contacting you if we need to and stuff. So
Absolutely.
okay. Does anybody else have any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so I need to ask for public comment. And so would anyone care to comment on this issue at all? Okay. Okay, seeing no one, I'll close that public comment. And
Thank you.
is that it, Amy? Okay, all righty. All right, thank y'all for coming out this morning. I appreciate all the work y'all are doing on that. Okay, your next order of business is public comment, but I don't have anyone to sign up to speak. And then next will be constituent concerns, and I think Bryant was going to comment on our opioid funding meeting, which we do every year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our next meeting on June 16th, we'll have our annual opioid funding discussion. We've had this for the last few years. It's required as part of the settlement process with the pharmaceutical companies in the state. But this year, actually, Dr. Banks and the sheriff and I've been working on a new phase to use our opioid funds. So at the meeting on the 16th, we'll have the public hearing, also a presentation from Sarah, and hopefully we can then get your support to proceed with using some of the funds. Keep in mind, we also have the treatment funds that we got as a grant from the state a couple of years ago, and recovery court. So we're sort of working with all of those three programs for the upcoming one on the 16th. And we'll also invite the towns, and we'll have this notice published in the paper. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, does anyone else have a constituent concern they need to comment on this morning? Okay. Okay, hearing none, I will move to administrative, we don't have any administrative reports or presentations. And on the discussion adjustment to the agenda, does anyone have any on that? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are 7 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of those 7?
Just one comment on item 6. We have a officer who's going to be honored for 12 years of law enforcement service, Deputy Alan Glenn Biller. I'd just like to read his name out and thank him for his 12 years of service to our county.
Okay. Okey-dokey. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. We approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, next we'll move to our regular agenda, and we have a request to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget ordinance. Go ahead, Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ordinance before you reflects the manager's recommended budget that we did a couple of weeks ago, and no changes from the public hearing discussions. So unless you have questions about the budget, it's as it was presented.
Okay. And we have had lots of meetings with you and discussions about this, so.
Seems like in some fashion we've talked since February about this budget, so glad to get it.
And I know we all appreciate the department heads and you and Christian's input and work on all this. Okay, all right, I'll entertain a motion we approve item 1 of the regular agenda. It's a big number.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, Bryant, Christian, and department heads. Okay, the next item on the regular agenda is to request approval of the Southwest North Carolina Home Consortium Home ARP allocation plan amendments for a limitation on non-congregate shelter activity. And you're up again, Lene. It's okay.
2021, the consortium received a one-time allocation through the American Rescue Plan to address homelessness with eligible uses, including supportive services and non-congregate shelters. Both of those services was what was chosen through that allocation plan to be provided. We are requesting an approval to amend that plan to limit the non-congregate shelter projects to just youth populations. That's birth through 18. This amendment is in response to the urgent need for additional foster care housing capacity. That was the whole intention of us doing non-congregate shelters as an activity, is to help address the foster care issues within our region. HUD requires that such a population-specific limitation be included in the plan to ensure that we're in compliance. Otherwise, those annexes or shelters, anytime funds are used in there, they would have to be open to all age populations, and clearly, we couldn't do that just if it's strictly on the foster care side.
Okay, so this will be for foster care. That in their budget we just passed, we had an increase of over $1 million, right, to the foster care. That was an increase to the foster care program in Haywood County. So I'm glad that you were able to find this out for us. I know it probably takes a lot of phone calls and trying to find the right person. I can only imagine how hard that is. So, okay. Does anyone have any questions on that?
I'd just like to comment. I know I've been in meetings concerning foster care and taking care of children. Is this going to have any impact on taking care of these foster kids kind of in an intermediate stage between when they are received in and when they're placed? Because I know in health departments across the state, there have been cases where caseworkers have had to get a cot and put it in the health department until they could be placed. Is this going to have an impact on being able to help with that situation?
Yeah, that's kind of the intended use of us including that activity, is to be able to create a separate, location for the counties who, are addressing that by either doing like a separate annex building. I know one county's looking at doing like tiny homes potentially for it to be like a community, but it's to assist with designing those facilities for those children to have a place that they have their own room, they have their own bed, they have their own amenities as far as, bathrooms. They're able to be provided supportive services while they're in that location, and it just be a safe and better situation than in a cot in an office setting where it's not meant to be lived in. Yeah.
Good. That's good to hear.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, we all know that foster care is a growing need. I mean, it seems like, we know the demographics are changing here in the county, and I know that a lot of our discussions have been the growing need for anything related to foster care, so
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. Okay, can we have a motion to approve item 2?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any discussion at all? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. And then you're up for number 3, which is approval to award the 2024 Southwestern North Carolina Home Consortium projects.
So in 2024, during our, for the funding from 2024, we did hold our application cycle. It was held this spring through the month of March. We received 2 applications for that funding. And after thorough review and evaluation by staff and our consortium board, we are actually recommending no projects be awarded this year. This is a recommendation based upon the applicants we received. There's some capacity concerns. There's issues with insufficient secured funding for the projects to see completion, as well as just a low return on investment. So the board, the consortium board determined it's probably not in our best interests and the strategic use of the funds to put money into either one of those. With that being said, though, that funding does not go away. It does roll over, and we can use it for other projects, either in our next application cycle in 2026, or again, if a project comes forth to the board between now and then we could vote on that and have that changed.
Okay.
I appreciate the board, being mindful and conservative and making sure that they've identified a solid project. So I appreciate that. We always want to see those funds being, spent forward or, so we are moving in the right direction, but it's also not a good thing to do it haphazardly. So I appreciate you taking the effort to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so if there's no other questions or comments, can we have a motion to approve item 3?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lene. And appreciate y'all coming out from Jackson County. Okay, item 4 is to request approval of a budget amendment for education, $25,000 to appropriate fund balance for the Pisgah Agriculture Barn project that was previously approved in April 2023 and unspent, and approval for county manager to sign any related documents.
Good morning.
Hey, Christian.
Yes, Pisgah has requested this $25,000. They have secured all the funding to complete the entire project, and they're ready to move forward. So we are requesting to pull this back out of fund balance since it was approved in 2023.
Right, okay. All righty, and I know they're working on that now as we speak, so.
We've already covered this ground. This is just
Yeah.
catching
Yeah.
up.
Yes,
We had approved this a while back.
yes, in April of 23. So
These are-
our caveat was that we wanted them to secure all the funding before we release the funds. So they're at that point now, and they're ready to move forward.
All right. Okay, this is the better late than never amendment, so I'll request a motion to approve item 4.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay,
Second.
okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Item number 5 is to request approval of a bid award for Raccoon Creek Bike Park to Appalachian Site Work Incorporated in the amount of $1.326 million. Approval of budget amendment in the amount of $850,000, utilizing interest earnings over budget, and approval of county manager to sign any necessary documents. And this amount was $1,326,391.50. We have our Deputy County Manager, Chris Boyd, here this morning to speak to that. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I don't think I need to read that all over again.
Nah.
So we'll talk about a few of the details. There were 4 bidders on this project. The bids range from 1.3 to 2.3. Appalachian Site Work is the lowest responsible bidder. We feel like knowing them and some other projects that they've worked on that we've reviewed, they will do a good job for us. One thing I do want to point out that while this is almost the final step of the bike park, there is one portion of it that's not included in this bid amount, that is the playground. The site prep is within this bid, but the playground is a specialty that will come from a specialty company later when most of this work is complete. This particular set of work is asphalt, concrete, pavilion with restrooms, water and sewer connections, some other light grade work, some biotension cell construction, and some fire hydrant type construction. So this is very broad in the type of construction at 1.3 million. I can share some other things if you'd like, but I'd like to pause and ask if there's questions. Ms. Best looks like she has a question for me.
What's the turnaround time?
They said that they could start in June when the bid, so we anticipate mobilization this month and beginning work. So likely end of calendar year, maybe bumping a little bit into early next calendar year, but it's supposed to be complete within time for us to open in the spring.
Okay. And this will be, we do have a track record with Allens Creek Park, you know, where we have a park, if you will, the county park, so.
Well, we feel like it's going to be utilized. Ellie's had some unexpected visitors already prior to getting the gate and fence put up. Folks just showing up with bikes wanting to ride the track. Unfortunately, we've had to ask them to leave because it is still a construction site with bulldozers and excavators. But there's a lot of folks. He's had a lot of inquiries from different people about utilization of this. We're just not quite there yet to allow the public to be on site. It's a little too dangerous being a construction project.
Okay.
But we have had interest. He's had a lot of contact. We expect that there'll be a lot of folks interested in using this when it's complete.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just a comment there. I do sit on the rec board, and I know a lot of work's been put in from our board and Ellie as well. At that bike park, I don't know if any of y'all been, but you ought to go by and see it. It is a nice park. I think Chris may even took a lap around the park. We're not going to talk about how well he did.
You
but
did not.
I
Mr.
did not.
Rogers. I recall that.
I'm a little older and a little wiser now than I used to be. So I've got bones that break a lot easier. But anyway, I think it's a great asset to the county. You know, we hear a lot of times that our young folks don't have a lot to do or something to do, and not only that, from the events that we can hold at that bike park and bring some dollars into the county, I think it's a great thing. So a lot of work's been done out there, and thanks to the board and Ellie, and look forward to it being open. Seems like we've been working on it for a while, and I know we're all excited to get it going. So this is close to one of the final stages, I know. So.
Close. I would say if you have interest in visiting, please contact Ellie or myself. Last week we did get the gate in place with the final section of fence, so it is secure. You can't just drive down to it now.
Okay. Okay. So you want to make that motion?
Yeah.
To approve item 5.
Saying that, I will make the motion to approve line item 5.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Item 6 is the request approval to award a bid for the Waynesville Library HVAC replacement to Superior Mechanical Services in the amount of $932,500, and approval of a budget amendment in the amount of $1 million utilizing interest earnings to fund HVAC project, and approval for county manager to sign all necessary documents. And our facilities director, Tim Sisk, is here this morning. Hey, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. This project, it began for me a good while back. We've been plagued with chiller issues, control issues, air handler issues at the Waynesville Library since I came on board 5 years ago. I had heard of a proposal to renovate the whole building in 2018, so this was identified as part of the larger project. We started with a request of qualifications in July of '24, specific just to the HVAC systems alone. Receiving 3 entries, we assessed and graded all 3 by committee. McGill Associates was awarded the engineering and began drafting plans that we were able to go to bid with. These plans were designed with several things in mind: longevity, energy and operational efficiency, and cost of construction. Through a partnership of engineering and county staff, we decided that natural gas boilers would be the best option to replace the outdated electric strip heat. Properly sizing the chiller will cut down on short cycling, excessive starts, and provide the longevity that we're looking for. Adding to the bid spec, a new building automation system will provide the control that we need and currently do not have for all new air handlers, boilers, chillers, and pumps. This is an all or nothing project. If we try to piecemeal this thing, it just simply won't work. Our goal is to coordinate the installation with the roof replacement that's currently under contract with Rise Construction. The summer reading program that the Waynesville Library has scheduled will end somewhere around the end of July. By that time, these components will have been ordered, spec'd, and most likely have to be manufactured. So this will also take time. I'm looking at a fall time installation along with the roof replacement, reducing the operational interruption to 1. The bid specs indicate a 90-day construction window. We really can't schedule anything, though, until we have lead times and have this bid awarded. So with that, I'll open the floor to any questions.
Tim, just a question, I couldn't hear you real well, but on the timing, what did you say? Did you say 90 days?
90-day window is what's in the bid spec for the completion.
Okay.
And the roof project has that same window.
Okay.
We just got to kind of pull the trigger on a window.
Make sure it ain't gonna rain.
Make sure the what now?
It ain't gonna rain.
Yeah, well, it's going to rain. I mean, let's just be honest. But we'll
Need to do it
work
this week
around
then.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So we've discussed this project off and on for some time now, and this is the project where the unit is installed back in under the roof,
Correct.
and we got to take the roof off or slide it out somewhere.
No, sir. We actually found access to go in through the library and remove a section of acoustic ceiling and make access to the crow's nest through that using.
You're gonna come down through the library. Okay. There was discussion one time about taking the roof off and getting a crane and.
We can't really put a roof on at the same time that we're trying to take the roof off. So in conjunction with all the subs, we felt like it was better to let the roof contractor work at the same time as the HVAC contractor and work in different spaces, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's going to be a logistical concern for everybody, but we got to try to work this thing out.
So Superior Mechanical Services, the bid award winner. Now, are they going to sub out to the other folks that are doing the auxiliary work? Is this bid is for the whole package, but
Correct.
They've got it and they're going to sub out specialized work?
They've got it. They will have to specialize out to train for the controls. If that's who is chosen, they would, sub out to a general contractor to come in and provide access through the building and up into the ceiling. So yes, Superior will be subbing out some of the components, but they are by and large the prime HVAC contractor.
Where are they located? Where are they?
Out of Greensboro.
Got somebody with you from there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Daniel Griffey with McGill. He's our engineering representative.
Anybody else have any questions?
A couple. What do you think the impact to the actual services offered from the library will be while it's under construction?
We've talked a lot about impacting services. Caroline, Kathy, myself, we've all sat down to feel like that it's going to be very similar to COVID times, providing some services through the roundabout potentially. There will be some days that we just have to shut the doors to the public for obvious reasons, tearing the soffit off the building or bringing equipment right through the front door. we're going to impact services, but that'll just have to be scheduled and maintained as best we can.
So I serve on that board, and it's, ideally, in a perfect world, we would have the ability to replace the library, but we know what those bids would look like. And
Yeah.
so this has to, in my opinion, has to be addressed. The utility costs are a growing concern, and they just continue to tick up on that building. And then last year, and I know that you're aware, I don't know if the public is, but they ran dehumidifiers for weeks to try to maintain the
They're
integrity.
still running.
Yeah, of the printed material because of the moisture levels in the building.
Yep.
So,
That's honestly one of the larger concerns that I have during this is when we shut down airflow, we'll have to place additional dehumidification equipment in just to maintain.
definitely a big job, and it's going to impact, I think it'll impact the people that frequently use the library, but.
Right. Yeah, there'll be times when we, we have the whole parking lot shut down with, cranes and equipment and everything else, so.
So, Tim, with this project, will it be easier for the next board or the next people that change that unit, or are you going to build in any, I guess, easier modes to maybe replace that unit in the next 30 years? I mean, I hope it lasts that long, but...
Where the equipment's located?
Yeah.
No.
No. Just can't be done.
No. There's one way in and one way out. Yep.
But now that you've found access through the building,
It's achievable.
it's much better than what I think they thought was
Yeah.
originally that
Yeah,
it
the
was gonna
original
have to
thought
be.
was take that crow's nest roof off, but this is much more user friendly, much more achievable. It's not without complications, but achievable.
A lot of money, though.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so can we have a motion to approve item 6 of the regular agenda?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, thank you. I appreciate you coming out this morning. And item 7 is to request approval of a budget amendment for Public Schools Capital Fund, $1,548,500 to appropriate fund balance to purchase 3 parcels of land in the amount of $648,500 and renovation costs in the amount of $900,000. Haywood County Schools Superintendent, Dr. Trevor Putnam, and Assistant Superintendent Graham Hayes. And I just see Graham came out today, so I guess they just said, Graham, go handle it.
It is just me today. Dr. Putnam McGratsy couldn't be here.
Okay.
Yes, so that ask is for a pull down from our capital funds. The first part there, $648,500, is for the purchase price of that property. The property owner came to us on that. We didn't seek it, but when I took it to the board, they thought it was a good deal, and it's kind of one of those things, if you can add land around a school to put a buffer. We have no plans for the property, but it just felt like a good investment for us, so we would like to go ahead and do that. And then the other $900,000, or up to $900,000, is for an innovative middle school. And through Listen and Learns, we've learned that there are some families that don't necessarily like our offerings for middle school. Our middle schools are great, but every kid's different, and some aren't as focused on the social aspects or maybe athletics. They really just want to hammer down and learn and have an accelerated curriculum. And so our goal with this, in partnership with HCC, is to offer an innovative middle school to have another offering at the middle school level with an accelerated curriculum. It would be immersive. They wouldn't be taking HCC classes necessarily because they are just middle school students, but we would be able to offer things like maybe environmental science, which would normally be earth environmental science, which would be normally a 9th grade class, in, say, 7th grade, which would then allow those students later on to be able to take more CCP classes, those dual enrollment classes with the community
CCP?
college. They're community college dual enrollment classes, essentially, is what it is. So while they're enrolled in high school, they're also enrolled at HCC,
Right.
and they're able to get credit for both.
Okay, very good.
So these funds would actually, the plan is for the early college to move down to the Poplar building, which is the old nursing building on the HCC campus, and the renovations would be done there. That building hasn't been used in a while, just needs some updates, nothing major, but some updates. And then the Innovative Middle School would move in where the current early college is in the Dogwood building.
Okay.
Students will be, can you accept in this innovative middle school?
We've currently got about 160, 170 or so at the early college. And so when they move down, there would be room for about that many for the middle school. But we just want to take our time with it and roll it out and do it right. And if we start with 50 or 60, then we start with 50 or 60 and we'll grow from there. Also, the early college moving down to the other building, there's more room in that building, so it would allow them to expand if that's something that we saw fit as well. But hopefully we'll draw in some more students to Haywood County Schools with this offering. That's our goal.
That early college option is, that's a fantastic option for the right students, for sure.
Absolutely.
Really sets them ahead in their educational journey, I guess. And as a parent, I can tell you middle school is not a cakewalk.
It's tough.
It is tough, and so hopefully this will improve that for some of those kids and parents. Yeah. Middle school, to me, was the worst years.
Yeah, it's tough for sure. But that's our hope.
That's not necessarily a reflection of anybody at the middle school. It's just a tough time.
It's the age. Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
We all remember our middle school selves. I think I had some spiky hair and, you know.
Can you bring pictures
Anyway,
next time
I
you
can.
come?
Yeah, I
that'd be
will.
great.
I will. Yeah.
Now, Graham, I think it's worth mentioning, my contacts through the NCACC, I got a legislative update last week, and there are multiple provisions in the House budget bill that provide more funding streams for these career education paths, early college. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there are several things in the House budget that provides more funding for that. And I know one thing that's been big for you guys, and it's in the House budget also, is the classroom size, K through 3.
Yes.
You know, where there was a requirement, if you got to, I think 28 was the magic number, you had to build another classroom.
Correct.
And so there's a provision in that, contained within that, to kind of relax that for a 2-year grace period to see where those populations are going to level out. So I just spoke with the executive director last week about some of these educational items on the House budget side of things, and it's interesting that that's your initiative here at Haywood County through HCC partnerships with our high schools. Like Commissioner Best said, it's just such a great value and prepares our kids coming out of high school for college, and some of them already have a degree, maybe 2, when they graduate from high school. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the goal, and it has been a very successful program. I think it's benefited us. It's been at HCC. It's benefited Haywood County. You know, so any more we can do to help along with that and get some students exposed to what HCC can offer and on an accelerated path, I think will be very beneficial. But I had read some of that stuff you mentioned, and so there's some good stuff in there, or potential good stuff in there.
They can get their heads together and pass the budget on time.
Well,
Another thing,
we'll
on
see.
the land acquisition, you're bringing that forward from the school board. And
Yes.
They
And
are
I've-
recommended that action. And,
Yes, sir, and I've got board motion here where they approved both of those things.
okay.
Be nice to pull some more of that lottery money too to help with a lot of this, right?
I think we did the math on that last time,
Yeah,
right?
we did the math on that. I just thought of that when I seen you come up. I'm like, kid, it just upsets you, you know, that we don't get no more than we do. But anyway.
Okay, any other questions on that? And this, the property you're buying is next to Junaluska Elementary.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. The bank and the field behind the Tuscola softball, baseball fields, and then the property actually wraps up around the back of Junaluska Elementary as
Okay.
well. 16.29 acres. It's 3 separate parcels.
Do they have any idea what they're going to do with it?
with the property. No, there's no plans right now. Again, like I said, the property owner just came to us and asked. He had an appraisal done. The board felt as though the appraisal was fair. And it was kind of one of those things that when it falls in your lap, if you can expand your footprint and keep somebody from building right next to you, just add a little buffer.
Okay.
And then, you know, maybe expansion down the road one day, but again, no plans for that right now. It just kind of is adding to the footprint of Junaluska.
Okay.
Does that property come all the way around to Francis Farm Road there?
It does. 79 Francis Farm Road is the address. It's kind of where, if you turn there, where you're going up to the bike track or our maintenance shop, on the left where that little bridge is that comes across, it starts there, and like I said, it goes all the way up that hill and then wraps around the backside of Junaluska Elementary. And then there's one small little triangle actually out next to the corner of the road where you turn. I think there used to be a sign for the tomato packing house or something that was on that property that was there. And so that little triangle, 0.01 acres, it stayed with that property whenever that transition happened back when, but that's included in that too.
Have access several different ways then, won't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 7 of the regular agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. All right,
Thank you so much.
thank
I'll bring you
Brandon.
that picture
Appreciate you
next
coming
time.
out today.
Thanks, we'll look for it.
Okay, that concludes the regular agenda. We were on to appointments. We have one appointment, which is to request approval for the appointment of Dr. Jedediah Jed Lambert to the HHSA Board in the dentist member position and reappointment of Nina Kirkpatrick to the HHSA Board in the nurse member position. And then,
The only thing I'd add, Mr. Chairman, is that on May 8th, the HHSA Board of Nominations put forth these, and the full board you voted unanimously to accept their recommendation.
Just a comment there, I know that to have a dentist member on board there is something that's been needed for quite some time, so I know the entire board is excited to have someone in place there. And Nida, she has served on the board previously and a very good active board member. So with that being said, are you ready for a motion?
yeah, you go ahead.
With that being said, I'll make the motion that we approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. And so you haven't had a member lately?
Yeah, we've been
a
trying to
dentist member.
get by. I don't know how long. I don't see Ira here this morning, but oh, there he is. Ira, how long has it been? 4 months. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, very good. I'm glad y'all, yeah, Dr. Jed's a good one. He's my dentist. So.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he does a good job. I was just there last week. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. All right, very good. That concludes the business. Do you have anything else, Brian, or anybody?
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate, excuse me. I appreciate Gayla Jones being here. She's here today in conjunction with an item on the consent agenda, the Juvenile Crime Prevention Board. She heads up, submitted their plan. It was buried in our consent agenda. Appreciate all the hard work that she's put into that. And hopefully she'll stay on as head of that. I heard something the other day that she might not, but maybe she'll stay around for another term. So we appreciate all the work that board does. And I saw the plan, and it's very good. So a lot of hard work put into that. So appreciate that. And also, I will comment about our yearly our audit. You know, it's in the consent agenda, and those are not cheap, so, but they're required, and so Golden Killian makes sure that we walk the line, and we have to do that. And so we hadn't had any trouble, and had exemplary reviews, so that's the way we want to keep it.
Okay, very good. Okay. Okay, so we don't have a closed session, so I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Everybody be safe.